What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fluffhammer. Today I'm going to be doing Olynder again. I'd done Olynder a couple of years ago. It was on the channel. I didn't do like a recording video or anything of her. I just done like a afterwards kind of retrospective how I painted her. I've been redoing the Nighthaunt, like a version 2.0 of the painting, and I've also just rebased Olynder. A lot of people were asking about how I built the base for her last time, so I thought this time I'm just going to go straight ahead and do a video on how I've built the base. I've removed the kind of spirits separately. Olynder's not glued at the moment if she's a bit wobbly. I've just got her blue tacked on so you can see the finished piece as it's going to be. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to get into the building video, then we're going to do some painting videos for the whole thing as well. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Okie dokie, let's get going then. So things you might need: super glue activator spray can be useful. I'm not sure if we're going to be using any super glue, but we might need it. A little bit of super glue. I've gone with Loctite. I just like it because it's thin. And then what I've done with these is I've actually cut off the little joining points, and I've also filled the gaps on Olynder where they would join into, purely just because I felt like having the little ones separate. So that's going to be the plan. So what I'm going to be doing is starting with the Olynder base, or Olynder base bits. I'm going to use a couple of the vines, maybe one or two, and then I'm also going to be adding some bits from the Sigmarite Mausoleum kit. I thought about having her standing on top of one of the caskets here, but I think what I'm actually going to go with is what I did on the original Olynder that I did for the channel, which is add this big gate post. I think the roses and stuff match perfectly with the roses that she's got on her vines and stuff, and it's a good mounting point for one of these each side. Another thing I've done with nearly all of my Nighthaunt models is had little pathways and stuff, so we're going to also build one up with these little bricks from Green Stuff World. They're little clay bricks and they break in half really nicely, so you can get like a proper brickwork effect pattern. If you want to do like a straight path and stuff, you can break them in half, make little sections, whatever. So yeah. Okay, as expected, the little vines from inside Olynder has broken off. They always do. I didn't stick the top half of the vines on because I didn't last time, for the same reason really. I think they obscure too much of the face detail, and also they just break off. So it's up to you if you know a good way of keeping them on, but these ones I've just had a bit of a play around with to try and get them back on. Not really sure what I'm going to do. But that's for a fix for a later date. This is a base video, so we're going to crack on with that. Basically, another thing you can use is blue tack. So that's always good to just kind of stick things down, model where you want things to go. As you can see, Olynder's quite wobbly, and so especially with these on, it's even worse. And that is difficult to paint. I find it quite annoying. So what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to clip out this bit of fence here from the Sigmarite Mausoleum sprue, and basically the aim with that is going to be to mount that around there to hopefully give us some points of connection with Olynder, which would be good, which it looks like we're going to get some nice connections here. And then also that will give us the option now of adding these on here and here. So you've got the choice of then having these facing outwards or facing inwards. I think I like it that way, to be fair. They're kind of facing inwards. And with these, where what I can do is a thing like there might be other words for it, but I would call it points of contact. So as you look at this model here now, you're going to have one point of contact here, one point of contact here, one point of contact here, and one point of contact here. So that is going to give you 4 points on this model where you are now going to glue to hold that model into place. So when you have the problem where things wibble and wobble, you see already that is much more stable than just having one point of contact. As you paint this, it's nice and stable because you've got 4 points of contact. This is where pinning comes into it. You can drill directly through into the fence post here and put a rod in and then fill the gap afterwards, which would obviously secure it even more as another option if you need to. Otherwise, I mean, plastic on plastic is a pretty good contact, especially if you can get it like this where you almost have to bend the ghostly bits a little bit around it. And the thing with that is it will just give you a bit of kind of natural pressure where you've had to bend the plastic, and sometimes you can get it to almost like hold itself on the model without even needing glue. So as you can see here, this is another really good contact on the other side, and that's going to give us a really cool looking model, and it's going to be easier to paint, and we're all up for making things easier to paint, and also it'll make your Olynder look very different to everyone else's Olynder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and ping all of the mold lines and flash off of this, because you don't need to watch that. I've got a video on my page if you want to watch correct assembly instructions about taking off flash, removing mold lines, but you don't need to watch that in this video. So I'm going to get this cleaned up. These are already cleaned up, so, and then I'll see you back here for the next step once that's done. Okay, so with that cleared up, we are going to try and do some assembly basically. So I'm going to put Olynder down and try and find a nice match for this fence for her. Just going to be around there. Like I said, all we need to do is just find a way of getting her just maybe 1 or 2 contact points just to stabilize her from being so wobbly, and that looks pretty good. We might need to go 1 more spike across. There we go, lovely. So the reason I done that 1 more spike across was to try and give us, if you can see from here, like an even gap both sides. It's hard when it's an even gap both sides, so the little spirits aren't trying to kind of fight through the middle with Olynder to get space. So with that said, you just have to play around with it really, move it about until you're happy with the positioning, and then basically you need to pick which side you want which. I think I'm going to go with the hourglass one on the right, Olynder's right, our left as you look at it, and then I'm going to be using some Tamiya cement or some Tamiya extra thin, and I'm just going to try and basically get a level where the model is looking at the right kind of height and looking in the right direction, and then try and find some decent contact points basically. So you can use things like files, just really gently manipulate the models until they're aiming in the right direction. Like that there is a really good contact point, sitting out on it by itself, not having to touch it. And also as you put it down, it's the right height, it's aiming in the right direction. So that might well be a go. I think what I'm going to do now is to try and basically just tack that. I'm going to use some extra thin and I'm going to drizzle it with the brush into the gaps, and hopefully that will now start to make a decent contact point for us to build on, and you should be able to get it to a point where you can kind of let it go like I have there, and just find your contact points. I think I've probably got at least 4 if not 5 good contact points here, and I'm going to use the Tamiya extra thin, and as you can see just use your brush and just dab it in the gaps. Especially with the extra thin, you can kind of, this one's running a bit low, you can get like a little droplet and you can just drop it in to the gap as well. Like I said, you've got the option if you want to of drilling a hole through here, pinning a fine rod in. If you want to do that, that will obviously give you maximum strength in the join, but as you know from building models, most things that you build for Warhammer only have 1, maybe 2 contact points. So if you can get a decent 4 or 5 contact points like I've got on here, that's going to give you more than enough stability to just have this model hold itself. So we're pretty much gone all the way around now, found all our contact points, reinforced them. I'm just going to do a couple of little dabs. You don't want to do too much because you don't want to like melt one piece into the next. So we can now slide this in on Olynder and check that she's facing the right direction, which for me that is absolutely spot on. And we might need to just adjust Olynder slightly. This is the only problem with the blue tack, it's quite stiff when you put it on in the quantity that I have. So we're gonna just knock that a bit, which is obviously still wet, so we need to be careful, but I'm gonna go with that as a good starting point for that. And there we go, get Olynder in there, and as you can see, I know it's only top down at the moment, but that's going to start to make a really nice display for that. So once we've got that on, got Olynder here, we're now going to basically try and find a nice contact point for this other one. So what we're going to try and do with this one is we're going to need to go more on the outside because this one's quite tight this side. We don't want them stuck obviously behind Olynder. And there we go, just by chance I've just stumbled across this and it's sitting absolutely spot on in the right direction and in the right place on the fence. So I'm going to slowly drag that out of there and see what we've got. So we're going to just go straight up the middle, I think. Yep, so we've got a couple of contact points. Going to tack some on there and drop some into the cavity, and it looks like we might have just found a really nice contact point to just go straight up the middle. So as you can see, both of our spirits are facing in the same direction, which is good, both facing forward within reason and both following Olynder quite nicely. So that is that. So we've got those two spirits tacked on, they've got nice strong contact points. This one here, like I've said, we've got a second and third contact point on the bottom here. So I'm now going to try and reinforce that by just tacking this with some plastic glue. So just find your contact point, so ours are here, and we're just going to drop some extra thin. Like I said, not a huge amount, just drip some in just to tack it to the surface. And then again on this side we've got another lovely contact point in here, and because they're touching, it doesn't really matter too much that you're going to melt the two surfaces together, because you're going to put a little bit of contrast in the paint job on that and you won't even notice that they are tacked together. And even if you can notice, they are ghosts, so in theory they should kind of merge with their surroundings anyway. So yeah, my model, my choice, right? So that is absolutely spot on, mega chuff with that. It's just going to be a case of getting Olynder's little tail bits through at the right angle, which I think we have there. So that is perfect for what I want. I'm now going to go ahead. I'm not gluing Olynder on because I want to keep her separately for painting. So I'm going to go ahead and use some Tamiya cement to make this gate permanent. I'm going to be doing these spirits quite dark, and I'm going to be using a black undercoat for them and a black undercoat for the fence and everything as well. So it's actually going to be perfect to have them on here like this with the black undercoat, and then I can do Olynder in whatever I want and airbrush her up separately or whatever. Perfect. So all I need to do now is make sure and mark out the points where Olynder touched the base so I can line it back up, obviously once I glue her on. And I will probably blue tack over the spray paint for this so I can glue her directly onto plastic without having to use super glue or a pin or anything. I'm going to give that a few seconds to go off and dry, and then what we're going to be doing is adding a little pathway in with some of these bricks from Green Stuff World. You will need super glue for this. I've tried PVA or wood glue, it does not hold them. As soon as you come to paint them, they all just peel off. So you will need super glue for these. And like I said before, I'm going to be using the little vines from the Olynder kit. There's 3 of them on the base there. And also from the Spirit Host kit, they come with a few of these cool little graves in the box. So I'm going to whip them open quickly and see what we've got. I think that one's going to be perfect. That's piece 30 from the Spirit Host kit, and it is a little gravestone with a vine wrapped around it with some flowers and a skull. So that's absolutely spot on for what we want. So I'm probably going to put that down this bottom side here, front near side, and then I'm going to build the little path on the outside bit here for us. So what I'm going to do now is just grab any old brush, anything you want. I've got a Army Painter Insane Detail. Sounds a bit overkill, but whatever. And I'm just going to mask or like dab off a section for me to mask off with the masking tape, so I can make sure and glue Olynder exactly where I want her. Doesn't need to be neat, doesn't need to be anything fancy. You just need to know exactly where to put your model. So that will do for her. That will just give us the perfect section to mask off. So when we put it all back together, we can make sure everything's in the right place. So there's that done. We can whip her off now and start dealing with her little inner thigh vine issue. The problem is because the vines come out there and through there, you need to put something in there. So I probably will try and reconnect these vines. What I might try and do is get a little drill bit, drill enough of a hole to stick this into, which will hopefully give us some contact to keep hold of it, or I will just super glue and activate or spray it one way or another. But that's just something to bear in mind with the Nighthaunt. So yeah, next up I'm going to get on to cleaning this up, and we'll give this a few minutes to go off and dry, and then I'll be back with you for the next steps. Okie dokie, so we are back. What I'm going to do is get this little gravestone and put it to one side, because that will be using plastic glue, so that will need longer to go off than the super glue. So I'm going to screw my little lid on my Loctite, which will puncture that and open that up. I don't use a fresh one of these every time, but I just had a pack delivered because if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you will see that I glued everything to my desk by spilling my glue over without noticing. So anyway, we are going to go in and start doing some bricklaying. I have never done this professionally, but I know you kind of offset bricks. So we're going to come in with one brick. I'm going to lift this up so you can see better. So we're going to go in with one brick and then the next brick next to it, and you're going to try and leave a little bit of a gap, And then what happens is the next brick goes in between those two. Now you don't have to do it this way. Obviously feel free to make your paths however you wish, but yeah, this is how I found them the most kind of aesthetically pleasing. You can also glue your fingers to them, but that is not required. You might want to just move them around with a scalpel blade or something. But yeah, I find if you leave a nice little gap like that to give you some space in between them, it makes painting them more efficient, and also it just makes it look better, I think, because you can then like use your washers and your airbrush to get contrast and stuff like that. You can then do like a ragtag one if you want, so you can just have like a bit of a mess of a bricky pavement where it's all over the place, or you can start cutting bricks through the middle. These break really nicely with a scalpel, just straight through the middle. He says as he doesn't do it. There we go. And then you can just touch them in either side like that, and that will then give you a nice straight path. So you've got kind of equal gaps and space either side, so it's making more of a uniform path, which is what I prefer. So you can see that it's going to be staying mainly the same kind of width the whole way around. You can move it around, obviously, you can bend it, curve it, whatever you want to do with it. Come down the outside, you can cut off edges to straighten things up. You can bend your paths, you can do them nice and straight, however you fancy it really. But like I said, I find the offset way the best way to do it. And I'm going to crack through this quickly and build this, and I will catch you for the next bit. Cool, so I made my little brick path and that's drying. And then what I'm going to do is use the vines from the set, and I'm going to have them coming out kind of from the wall and slightly overlapping the bricks, because then that will give us a more kind of 3D effect to the base. It's more realistic that the vines would be growing over this old brick path in the middle of a graveyard or whatever. So also as well, where you've got it's like a kind of dark brown or a grey dirt, and then a grey fence and rusty metal, which is going to be brown and rusty, it might be nice to have some vines, whether you're doing like a nice green spring summery vibe, or even like a orangey autumn vibe, whatever you're doing these leaves coloured. So it just adds a little bit of colour and a little bit of visual interest to a base to just break it up. So being just plastic on plastic, you can just do a little dab on there and then just set it out wherever you want it really. I might have it going in between the gaps of the stones. I might just have it sitting on top of them, just move it about until you're kind of happy really. Yeah, I like it there. I'm just going to do a touch of super glue on the brick just to keep that down. Then you can use these little brass rods, which I use for pinning. You can use them to just move things about like that, pin them down in place, whatever. Then we're going to grab our Tamiya again, and then just get a nice amount on the bottom of this little gravestone, and about there. That looks good to me. Put a little drop of this around the edge just to seal it, in case there's any like little gaps under the base or whatever. This will just melt the two together and fill any gaps underneath. You could then add another one of these vines behind here maybe, but I'm going to leave it there because I want to put some autumn leaves and tufts and stuff like that, whatever. So here is the finished base, and then like I said before, I'll stick a little bit of blue tack on. We can put Olynder on in between here, squeeze her in. I have no problem getting over the blue tack. There we go. Lovely job. And there we have it. So Olynder will join these couple of contact points on this fence here. There we go. So like I said about contact points, you're going to find a contact point here and here. They will be painted by then, so you will need super glue for that, but you can just do the tiniest little touch and that will just stop the wobbliness of Olynder. Like now, if I just hold one of these points still, you can see how little she wobbles, whereas otherwise you can even hear the noise of her shaking around and rattling. So yeah, there we have our base. We've built a little concrete path. What you can do, you can either leave these overhanging the edge here, which sometimes I do, or you can follow the angle of your base like this and you can just scrape away carefully, obviously using the knife. You can just scrape away at this. You can hear it going and you can see it because we're following the like bevel of the base, just pulling it round. There we go, and that's given us a nice smooth base all the way around there. You can then fill the bottom of that if you want with any like fillers or stuff, if you want to make like a perfectly smooth base join. But yeah, there we have it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're looking forward to seeing me paint it up. I'm going to be doing like version 2.0 of painting Olynder, and I'll see you in the next one. Please do all the good stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye bye. This episode of Fluff Hammer is sponsored by Black Tower Games, an exciting new game store located just outside of Norwich City Centre. They stock a wide range of board games, card games such as Magic of the Gathering, as well as a huge range of tabletop games like Star Wars Legion and of course Warhammer. They also have a massive range of acrylic paints from Citadel and brands like Vallejo as well. The web store is currently not active, but it will be up soon, so keep an eye out. They'll have 20% off all new releases for Games Workshop. Cheers guys.